Welcome to Sober Talk. I'm Dennis and I have lived experience of alcohol. If you or anyone you know is struggling with alcohol, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 222222 or check out their website on aa.org.au. I'll just run through the preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other. They must solve their common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses or opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm an alcoholic and I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm here today on the radio to share my story, and I really hope that those listening, somebody listening may relate to what I'm talking about. And if you do, and you've got a problem with alcohol, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous is always there as a solution. And yeah, I'll start my story by probably going back into childhood, because that's where my drinking started. I think it was around year 7 to year 8. Kids brought alcohol to school and drink bottles, and I tried it. It was behind the school, down in a sort of like conservation area, and living some trees, and I drank the alcohol, and they also had marijuana there, and I tried some of that, and I can't remember, you know, what happened that evening or that afternoon, and yeah, working the next day and talking about what happened and stuff, and I just felt terrible because they were paying me out. They were teasing me, you know, about how I'd been, and I couldn't remember. But what did happen was I wanted to do it again, and I started. It's very foggy in my memory, but at year 8, I started just doing it, like drinking and smoking weed every day, almost every day. Yeah, and I know today that that's not, you know, quite normal behaviour for a 12-year-old. And I can have a lot of compassion on Leah, so a lot of compassion on her, because she was an alcoholic. She didn't know it at that time, but yeah, I had to go down that path, and my mum and the school tried to help me through those years. Unfortunately, I got in a lot of trouble at school just for bringing alcohol to school and things like that. And the school system didn't really know how to handle that. So they'd suspend me or expel me, sort of thing, and I'd spend some time at home, and I'd be like to my family, none of them drank really. I had a drinking problem and certainly no drug problem. And I'd try, and they'd say, like, why are you doing it? Wait, you gotta stop, you can't have that, sort of thing. And I was like, I don't know. It was honestly like sort of baffled why I had to keep doing it, and I'd do anything to get alcohol and drugs right from that young age. And yeah, so my mum tried to help me a lot, and I'd start promising that I wouldn't drink, and so I started what I know today, what I refer to as like, you know, swearing off alcohol, like where I'd promise that I wouldn't drink, and I'd go a period of time, maybe 4 or 5 months without alcohol or drugs. And that started right from age 15, 16. I started, you know, promising I wouldn't do it. So I knew I had a problem at that young age, and yeah, I tried doing things about it, but I didn't have the help of like the support of like AA or anything like that. But yeah, 16, 17, I swore off, and I did most of the year at school, got through school. But what would happen is I'd start to notice other young people drinking at parties and things like that, and they'd be like, having a lot of fun and seeming to manage their alcohol and stuff like that. And my mind would start up thinking, and it would be like, my mind would tell me, you're not having any fun with your alcohol. You're boring. Your friends don't like you. You're not popular. You're not cool. A lot of negative thinking about myself. A lot of fearful thinking, like anxiety and things like that. And my mind would start telling me, oh, maybe you could get away with it this time. Maybe you could drink at this party this weekend and be all right, and because by that stage, the consequences of my drinking were pretty bad. Like, friends wouldn't want to hang out with me anymore. My family were upset with me, and the schools were like suspending me and things. So I'd be like, oh, maybe I could drink at this party, and I'd go to and fro in my thinking, like, oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, yes, I can. No, I can't. For about a week, just thinking about drinking. And eventually I'd drink on the weekend, and it had started off again. And I'd drink all night. Other people's alcohol, I'd become alive. Like, I'd feel great. I'd feel euphoric. I'd dance and talk to people and just have a fun time and make all these connections with people, like, friendships and things, and have deep and meaningful conversations. And I thought it was amazing. And then the next day I'd wake up and it'd be like at a party or something like that. I'd wake up and I'd feel terrible. I wouldn't know what was wrong. And I'd be in the bedroom just waking up, and I'd hear everybody outside, and I'd be like, oh no, I'm going to face them. And I'd just feel that dread in myself. And I'd just want to get drunk or high again straight away. And that would set me off for like a bender or a spree of drinking and drugging for a couple of weeks. And it'd all happen again. I'd get in trouble. And yeah. So that was what it was like in the younger years. But what happened as I went to university after school and started, getting into more serious, like, intimate relationships, and my friends started to, get good jobs and, maybe go for a year of travel or whatever they were doing with their lives. My drinking and drugging progressed, so I just wanted to keep that party going, and I found nightclubs and, a lot of fun. There was a lot of fun times, but unfortunately it caused me a lot of chaos as well, because I failed at uni. I wasn't reliable to do my work at uni, and my intimate relationships they'd always want to try and stop me from partying so much. So they'd try to help me, and family members were sort of getting to the end of their tether with me. They were just so frustrated and didn't know how to help me. I had a few DUI incidents where I had a car accident drunk and rode off a car and wound up in the hospital and things like that. That was starting to happen in my early 20s. And so I, like what I explained earlier with the swearing off, I'd try that again. I'd swear off for a couple of months and do well at uni, do well at everything, but inevitably that thinking would come back to my mind that told me that a drink or a drug was a good idea. And I'd be forced to pick up. It was like a force in me. Like it was, I couldn't not do it. It was, utter power that made me want to drink and drug. And there was no stopping it. Like nothing, no one could talk me out of it. No one could, try to make sense, talk sense to me or anything like that. It was just, it was me. I wanted to do it. And I'd contact old contacts and, go out drinking with anyone that wanted to drink the way I like to drink. And, I caused a lot of damage. I couldn't see it at the time, but I heard a lot of people, I remember one friend, about 24, she was getting married. I was meant to be like helpful at the wedding by being like an usher and stuff. And I totally, caused havoc on a hen's weekend, and then the wedding, just being so out of it that I wasn't making sense. And I caused her a lot of friends. She had to end the friendship after that, caused her a lot of pain. And I was devastated, when I found out she was going to end the friendship. I couldn't believe it. And I just felt sick in my stomach about how I'd been. And I know that I had a lot of shame around my drinking, like feeling terrible for how I treated her. But I just knew I couldn't couldn't change it. I couldn't stop it. And I wound up in my first rehab at age 25 after a couple of weeks in the hospital, in the mental health ward. And yeah, we ended up in my first rehab. I gave it a fair crack. I got to a year without alcohol and drugs. And then that thinking came back again. So that was at age 25. I had a couple of more benders at age 26 and 27, but by this time the benders would last months. Like they would last 6 months, and then the last one lasted 8 months, where I was literally out of it 24/7 for that time. I picked up harder drugs as well in that time and really went very low with the illness. I was not functioning well at all. And yeah, that wound me up in AA this time. What happened was I was in a hospital sobering up in the mental health ward. I was locked up, actually. I was detained against my will, and they found out I was pregnant in there, and it was a massive awakening. I was just like, what like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have the word in AA. It's a 12-step program, and I didn't have, the first step is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. I didn't know that I was, like, use that word powerless, but I knew I was stuffed because I could not stop drinking and drugging how I'd been doing it since age 12 to now. I was now 27. I was pregnant and I was going to cause a lot of harm to that child. I knew that. And I was desperate. I said an earnest prayer, like an honest prayer, and I was like, I need some help. Please help me with this. And my mum did everything to get me into another rehab, and it was an AA-based rehab. They took you to AA every day. I spent 2 months there, and I just had some serious, working out my life to do and getting things back on track, and a lot of therapy and going to AA every day. And I'm so grateful for that experience of going to AA every day. I started to hear things, and I wanted the help. Like, I was so smashed with this illness, like my ego was destroyed of how low I went. Like, nobody wanted me around. In the end, I've become homeless, and yeah, just wanting that party to continue. And I found myself at this rehab, and I was going to AA every day, and they said like some things, and my mind was like, wow, I understand what you're saying. Finally, things were making sense, and I was starting to hear things that made sense to me. And I remember going to a meeting, and this lady was saying, it's the first drink that does the damage. If you go back in your own story, you'll see as well that the first drink sets off like a compulsion to keep drinking all night. You won't remember. That's called a blackout, where you blacked out. And then the next day you'll feel so terrible, guilt, shame and remorse, and you'll want to do it again. And I was like, wow. I looked back into my own story, and I was like, every time I've had a bender, like, and I've destroyed everything, I have taken that first drink, and it set me up to continue drinking. Even if I didn't have any more alcohol, I'd get it. I'd get it from friends, or like, steal it, or whatever it was, do anything to get more. And then the next day, it was like a cycle. I'd go again because I'd be feeling so terrible about myself. And yeah, so I heard that lady say that, and I was like, oh, okay, so I do have to stay away from the first drink. And that brought up a lot of, just, oh no, I'm not going to be able to drink again. But honestly, I was at that point where I knew it was all or nothing with alcohol. I had to leave it and put it aside. I had to choose abstinence because I'd tried controlling it before, just saying to myself, I'll have 6 drinks or whatever it was. So I was willing to try abstinence. So I started in this rehab. I was obviously not drinking and drugging. I started the journey of abstinence from alcohol. And that's what AA is about. We don't drink. But we're happy about it, because what happens is I started to hear more things in AA, which was get a sponsor and do the 12 steps. And I was like, okay, I haven't tried that before. I'm going to listen. A lot of people are saying that, and it's helped them. So I went on that journey. And it's a beautiful journey where someone explains it to you, the sponsor explains it to the sponsee, how to go through and take the 12 steps. And I've done that slowly over the last 8.5 years. I'm now 8.5 years, coming up to 9 years clean and sober. And it's an absolute miracle. In those early days, I had to get to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous every day because it was so, temptation was so close, to drinking drugs. I was pregnant with my son, and I wasn't able to work because I was pregnant, and I was going to be having a baby soon. So I worked on recovery. That was my full-time job, and that is a job in itself. It took a lot out of me getting clean and sober. I finished up at the rehab and I moved into my own accommodation, and I went to the meetings every day. And people were so kind to me. Like, I had a lot of shame around how I'd fallen pregnant and things like that. And I was crying at the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous every day, or every couple of days I'd be crying. And people were so kind, and they didn't shame me and they didn't judge me, and they accepted me for who I was. And that was the real start of me being allowed to be honest about my problem, which was alcohol and drugs, and how much I would take alcohol and drugs and how I'd hide it from people and steal and lie and all the harmful things I'd done to people. I was honest about all that stuff and people didn't judge me. And that was so healing, so it's been an incredible journey of sobriety. Now back, great relationships with my siblings. My mum has been a journey with my relationship with my mum, but it's a lot better. We get along today. She helps me with my son. She looks after him and stuff, and I'm so grateful for her sticking by me. I would have never have got sober without my mum, getting me into that rehab and being there for me and my siblings. They did everything to try and help me. And still today they're there. And, even just last weekend, it was my son's 8th birthday. We had a big party, and all my siblings were there enjoying my son. And yet such a miracle to be like that, because part of my story is dysfunctional family as well, coming from that background where there was abuse and trauma. And so I've had to navigate all of that in recovery. I've had to face what I was running from, with the alcohol and the drugs. I was running from myself and from the pain inside me, and just trying to block it out, just trying to numb it out, just trying to cope with life, And I don't have to do that to myself today. I can be kind to myself, and I can do what's right for me, which is AA. I have to keep doing AA. And people think, why do you do it when you're 8.5 years sober? You think you'd be fine now to just go about life and things like that. What's got taught to me is the 12th step. So part of me staying sober today is trying to help other alcoholics to get sober and to maintain their sobriety. And that helps me to, continue on this journey. And it's a beautiful thing, just like people were there for me, they gave me their time and helped me to get sober. I can now do that for other women that come into AA, and help sponsor them to help them get sober. And it's a real, an amazing thing in my life. It gives me a lot of joy to see people get sober. But that's not all my life is about. I'm a sober mother. My son's never seen me drink and drug. He's had a lot of stability. He's had a great childhood. He's had a great school. We've got great friends and stuff. And he's got hobbies, and he's into a couple of extracurricular activities and stuff. There is no way I'd be able to do that without AA. I've had lots of adventures. I've had to build up hobbies in recovery, because my only hobby was drinking and drugging. I liked my sport and stuff as a young child, but over the time, drinking took everything away. So, I've built that back up. I love hiking, camping. I've done a big kayaking trip, a couple of them, where I've kayaked down the Murrumbidgee for six nights, where you camp out of the kayak and stuff. Just had some amazing experiences sober. And that lie that my thinking would always tell me, you're not having any fun without alcohol. You're not having any fun. People don't like you, things like that my mind would always tell me, I know it's not true today. It's not reality. People do like me, and I can have fun sober. So it's incredible to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and to be on this path. You know I can go all around the world. Like if I go on a holiday or go interstate, I can find a meeting and I can go there and I'll be welcomed and, have people that understand me. And I know, that because of where I've been with addiction, I can understand others that have been to those lows as well and can help where others can't. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous is about. Alcoholics helping alcoholics. We're not paid or there's no professionals or anything like that. It's all one alcoholic helping another. And yeah, I'm just super grateful for that. It's not easy getting sober. It's a challenge. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I would not change it for the world. I don't want to go back to drinking and drugging. There's nothing left in that life for me. I have to maintain this, sobriety, and I do that by going to AA. So yeah, if you've been listening, there's meetings in your local area, and I just thank you for listening to me share my story. Thank you.
We have local meetings for the full week in the local area. Monday is Gala meeting at 8 o'clock. Tuesday is Elizabeth East at 8 o'clock. Wednesday is Elizabeth East at 8 o'clock. Thursday is Two Wells at 8 o'clock. And Friday is Salisbury at 8 o'clock. There's a meeting at Daveron Park at 12 o'clock. And on Sunday there's a meeting in Salisbury at 7 o'clock. And many other meetings in the area. For details of your local meetings, please phone 1300 22 22 22. And once again, if anyone you know is struggling with alcohol issues, please call Alcoholics Anonymous on 1300 22 22 22. The website is aaSouthAustralia.org.au.